Hi there from Lombok, Indonesia, where I'm traveling at the moment, and I've been exploring this beautiful beach, and this is my attempt to find a spot out of the wind in order to do this video. I'll give a quick little shot of the coastline here. The beach is off around that corner there. Alright, so in this video, in the course of the next few minutes, I'm going to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is a non-physical world, a metaphysical realm that exists beyond the physical material world that we know. And this is a world that scientists actually are fully aware of, and yet they explain it with very shaky, faulty evidence, and I will get to that in just a moment. So the first thing that I want to say here is that I'm sure this is not the first time this argument has been used to try to prove a non-physical realm. I'm sure there are other videos out there probably coming at this from roughly the same angle, but this video is my own unique thoughts. I didn't watch someone else's video and then decide to make one of my own talking about the same stuff. So this is my own take on this subject. So let me ask you a question. Are you a robot? Is it within the realm of reason that you could possibly be a very complex, highly technological cyborg of some sort, even one that is created using living materials, so that if a scientist were to investigate you, they would discover that in fact you are a living organism, which obviously you are, and yet, because science does not equate life with consciousness, science might say, well, sure, you're a living organism, but that does not mean that you are actually a conscious being. You could still be a robot, a cyborg of some kind. But I'm guessing that you know that you are not a cyborg. I know that I am not a cyborg. Can you prove to me that you are not a robot, a machine of some kind? And if so, how would you go about doing that? There's two separate answers to those two separate questions. The answer to the second question is that no, you cannot prove to me or to anyone else, under any kind of circumstances, that you are in fact a conscious being. However, you know beyond a shadow of doubt that you are a conscious being. And I know beyond a shadow of doubt that I am a conscious being. I have conscious awareness in this physical body. I'm here feeling the sun shining on my face, the breeze flowing across my skin, seeing the ocean out there and the rocks, and the bright glare of the sun in my eyes. I am having a personal, subjective experience of being a human being in this body, in this moment. I cannot prove that to you. I could be a cyborg as well. So, science explains this issue of consciousness by saying that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain. Consciousness is an epiphenomenon, which sounds like a very fancy word. Sounds like it must mean something high and mighty and fancy, and must have some truth to it. But that is just a highfalutin way of saying that, according to scientists, the brain and brain waves, electromagnetic waves from the brain, causes consciousness somehow. The problem is that this is a logical fallacy, as they say. This, as anyone who has taken a critical thinking class can tell you, this is a faulty argument. To say that because consciousness and the brain exist synonymously, therefore means that the brain is causing consciousness, is kind of like saying that my house causes my car. I don't actually have a house or a car, but if I did have both of those, then a house and a car oftentimes exist synonymously in the same place at the same time. There's obvious interaction between the two. The car drives into the house, or at least into the garage. People get out of the car and go into the house. There's this back and forth interaction between the house and the car. And so I could say, under that same line of reasoning, well, I theorize then, therefore, that my house causes my car. How does that sound? That's ridiculous. So it is with this argument that because the brain and consciousness exist synonymously, then therefore the brain causes consciousness. The logical fallacy is, because A and B exist together, therefore A causes B. B could just as well cause A. They could be entirely independent, A and B, and yet they interact from that place of independence and have some kind of a exchange of energy with one another. So this is a problem in science that has not yet been resolved whatsoever, and it will not be resolved, because consciousness is not something that can be tested in a laboratory. You can fiddle with the brain, you can dissect the brain, you can sense the electromagnetic frequencies being emitted by the brain. You can even determine scientifically that there is a correlation between brain activity and consciousness through the use of subjects and noticing patterns in which people's thoughts and emotions and images within their mind correspond with brainwave activity. You can make that link. You cannot, however, say with any kind of determined conclusion that the brain therefore causes consciousness. That is an illogical argument. That is a fallacy to make that leap. And that is a leap that science has not come anywhere near resolving and will not resolve, because consciousness is non-physical. Consciousness is immaterial. Consciousness is metaphysical. Consciousness is all the proof that you need to understand, to know with certainty that there is a metaphysical realm. Now, science is about the objective observation of the material realm. Am I correct? Which supposedly can be determined, measured, evaluated in some way. Maybe not all with today's technology, but it is within the realm of possibility to see in some way all of physical reality. So how do we even know that consciousness exists? Because science has never found it. Science has never created a instrument of some kind that can pin it down and say, here we found consciousness. Here's the consciousness particle or whatever. Why does science acknowledge consciousness whatsoever, considering this conundrum it presents? Well, because scientists themselves have consciousness, and so they can't deny it exists, even though they cannot objectively determine that it exists with any of their tools. But I thought that science was about the objective observation of the material realm. And yet, the only reason that science knows that consciousness exists is because of the subjective experience of it. Doesn't that totally fly in the face of what science is about? Consciousness will never be resolved by science, even though I'm a fan of science, because consciousness is immaterial. Consciousness is non-physical. Consciousness is metaphysical. You cannot observe it under a microscope. You cannot test it with any kind of machine. Consciousness is all the proof that you need that a metaphysical realm of some kind exists. And all of the theories being presented by science to explain consciousness fall short. I was reading an essay this morning by a guy who was giving his theory about how consciousness arose, and he basically laid out a history of life on Earth and said that basically it was a survivalist adaptation that at some point in the development of animals on Earth, it became more advantageous to them to have an awareness of their surroundings for the purposes of adaptation and survival. And so consciousness was developed and has since carried on from then to the consciousness that we now experience as human beings. He said that it might be that either it was around the time of fish or around the time of primates that consciousness eventually arose. But what is that? That is just a theory. That is nothing conclusive whatsoever. It doesn't resolve the question of if there was no consciousness while there was life on Earth, then all of a sudden consciousness just kind of appeared out of nowhere. How does that happen? You have to explain that somehow. You can't just theorize it. You can't just put it out there and say, well, I'm not sure how it happened, but here's when it likely could have happened. That doesn't work. That is illogical. So there you go. That is all you need to know to prove to yourself that there is a metaphysical realm, that there is a non-physical dimension beyond the physical world, beyond these hard rocks and this physical body, that undoubtedly exists, because your experience of your consciousness is the proof of that. And you have to ask yourself the question then, if there is individual consciousness that exists beyond the physical realm, is it not within the realm of reason, of practicality, of logic, that there could possibly be some sort of a larger, greater consciousness also that exists beyond the physical realm? Call it what you want. Call it God or Allah or Yahweh or Great Spirit. Is that illogical to assert that argument? That considering that I have an individual subjective experience of this non-physical, thing of consciousness, could there not be some other greater consciousness out there? So I'm not making an argument that that is the case. I'm simply saying, is that not within the realm of possibility? And then, what else might there be in that non-physical realm? It also begs the question, if our consciousness is non-physical, then is it not possible that that non-physical aspect of ourselves could possibly survive beyond the death of our physical body? Is that a reasonable, practical, sustainable hypothesis? Not necessarily conclusion, just something that's worth proposing and investigating. Why not? Feel free to offer a reason why that is not logically sound, but I don't see why it is not. So there you go. That, to me, is absolute proof that there is a metaphysical realm of some kind. How big it might be, how long it might have lasted, what else might be there, is, for the mystics and the psychics to propose, and for the rest of us to possibly be skeptical of. This is a realm that science cannot deal with, cannot determine, cannot investigate, cannot quantify, because it is beyond the realms of science, which is limited to the objective observation of the material realm. And consciousness exists independent of that physical world. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.